Andrew Doak here with not only former Red Raider pitcher, but also ESPN Baseball Tonight analyst, Dallas Braden. Dallas, thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
When you first heard that the Red Raiders obviously were going to the College World Series and were approached to be able to cover the team this week, how stoked were you to be able to come out here to Omaha?
Well, I almost hit my head on the ceiling, and I'm not an overly large guy, so let that be the scale. I was very excited, jumping up and down. I actually got crushed today during the media day. I see the boys outside taking pictures in front of the stadium, and I'm overlooking, and I've got my guns up, and I'm losing my mind, and I got people taking pictures and blowing me up on Twitter. You know, somebody's a little enthusiastic, so yeah, I was excited, to say the least.
You obviously played under Larry Hayes. How cool has it been to see the maturation, the building of this program under Tim Tadlock?
Well, they have definitely continued to grow. I tell you what, Larry Hayes, a.k.a. L-Dog to me, number 27 on the field, number 1 in our hearts for sure, obviously did an amazing job with the program. But you talk about Coach Tadlock and what he's done, the folks that he's brought in, the staff, J. Bob Thomas, a former teammate of mine, obviously just that grinder mentality, and I think that speaks volumes for where the club is now, where the school is now, back here in Omaha, knocking on the door.
I know whenever you were at Tech, you had a little bit more clean-cut look. Obviously,
I did.
You got some flow. You got some cabbage now.
I've let it grow.
What goes into that?
I guess it's a bad hairline and really trying to cover up everything else that's going wrong in this situation here. It is a face for TV, so if I can deter that and get you to focus on the hair, it's a win for me.
I know you obviously keep your ties in an interesting knot, an Eldridge knot, I believe. Is that how you pronounce it?
True story. It is an Eldridge knot. Again, that was just sort of an effort. You know, you're coming into an industry where there's a lot of guys that are buttoned up, very professional. I try to maintain a certain level of professionalism, but at the same time bring my personality into it, which is, again, the Eldridge knot, just a little something fancy that I try to throw together. Again, a deterrent from what's going on.
Where'd you get that idea to do that knot? Were you just looking up different combinations?
Pretty much. You know, I figured, hey, you got to bring something to the game. You got to bring some sort of flavor, and there's a lot of guys who dress nice. There's a lot of guys who have a lot of good information, and I figured if I could try to blend the two by looking good and maybe even sounding good part of the time, I might have something going.
All right, who's somebody on that ESPN Baseball Tonight cast that's just as enthusiastic, can match you, maybe just as funny as a host as you?
Oh man, I tell you what, Carl Ravitch is amazing. He's got humor. Adnan Verk is another host who does a tremendous job. Eduardo Perez, he likes to give me shots and little rib shots during broadcast and telecast, so he's a guy who keeps you on your toes. I'm surrounded by the most uber professional crew and group I could have asked for as far as a second chapter or a second act as a career is concerned, so I'm just riding the wave, man.
I'm sure you guys have a lot of funny stories that you probably experienced together. What's one that could probably make TV?
You know, I would have to say probably Eddie, thinking that he knew the route to the ballpark, and he's trying to explain to our Uber driver, no, it's a left here, and then you go right, and as we continue to pass the ballpark, and Eddie, well, we don't stop for directions. Next thing you know, we're late, we've missed our meetings, but don't worry, Eddie's going to get us there right on time.
So I heard when you were in school, you hit a dinger, and it went apparently over the scoreboard, is the tall tale I've been told. What's the story going on?
Well, that depends on where you heard the story. If you heard the story from me, it's still going. It clearly cleared the scoreboard, but if you've watched the video footage that I have managed to capture, it was a midweek game. It snuck out just under the scoreboard, but it was still worth a run, and it was my only NCAA D1 bomb, so I'll take it.
Still have that ball around?
I do still have that ball. Believe it or not, it's up on the mantle next to a few more important balls.
I told him I was going to throw a deuce, right?
Yep. Man, that ball got out of here in a hurry.
When's the last time you've been back to Lubbock? And when you do go back, what's the first thing you got to do? Maybe the first bite you got to get to eat there.
Man, I tell you what, I haven't been back to Lubbock in a while. The last time I was in Lubbock, I was at the campus. I got to see an old friend of mine, Shashir Bakhta, the equipment manager, still kicking somehow. I don't know how that happens. But there was a little spot down the road called Bumpy's. It was a catfish spot. It was mostly just a little pop-up restaurant. But I love me some catfish. I love me some hush puppies. And that was a place I would dial up probably 5 days out of the week. So they weren't there when I went back. Broke my heart, but I'm going to have to find another catfish spot.
You have a favorite memory just as a Red Raider, maybe in your career or just days in school?
I think it has to be probably after our first victory. You walk out onto Danlaw Field and you're singing the fight song. The Tech hecklers are in all their glory, and that's when it hit me that this is D1 baseball. This is the big stage. A kid from the ghetto in California made his way all the way out to West Texas, and I got to really experience what before I knew it, what big league baseball was going to be all about, and that was thanks to Texas Tech and the environment they put me in.
Last one, and I'll get you out of here. Got to ask you about your perfect game once you got to the majors. You're one of very few that have pitched a perfect game. How special was that moment looking back on it? What's maybe your favorite memory outside of obviously throwing the perfect game itself?
I think honestly for me, it's always about having the interaction with fans, where they were on that day, what they were doing, what they were supposed to be doing, and what they were actually doing. Meaning, I should have been at a barbecue, but I was watching your game instead. And my dad and I got yelled at, but we showed up and everybody was crying. And, I think it's just hearing those stories, really getting to relive that moment with fans. That's the one gift that honestly keeps on giving, is just being able to share that memory, knowing what it meant to me and my grandmother on that day. It's not about the win, it's not about the loss or the historical significance. It's really about sharing those memories on such an important day in a significant time.
ESPN Baseball Tonight analyst Dallas Braden. Dallas, thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
it.
Thanks for having me.